Let me preface this by saying that this video will include a lot of very absolute statements. This is because of the way in which I am choosing to adapt Sun Tzu's words for this essay. It is statistically impossible to win 100% of your invasions, as this video may lead you to believe. That being said, this script is highly paraphrased and modified to make the ideas, not necessarily the precise words of Sun Tzu, more easy to connect with the invasions of Soulsborne games. Before I start, I want to thank everyone who made making this video a little bit easier. You guys have been a great help and have made this a possibility. So thank you truly for your time, your patience, and your contributions. I also want to particularly thank I Am Amish for helping me make this happen. You have been a great help and inspiration in the making of this video. With that out of the way, welcome. The aim of this video essay is to compile some of the thoughts I've had regarding invasions in Soulsborne and how they can be compared to real-life tactical scenarios. Keep in mind, I have no real combat experience, so I will be assessing this from a merely philosophical standpoint. I'm just making that clear because I may err when it comes to practical details. That being said, I will be looking at several sources, mainly Sun Tzu's The Art of War. For those who haven't heard of it, The Art of War is an ancient Chinese military compilation of tactics and strategies employed in real wars. As such, these strategies hold real value and have been used historically. It consists of 13 chapters. Let's take a look at invasions then. When invading, your goal is simple. Kill the host whose world you have invaded. Simple task, but how do you carry it out? To make it short, it depends. The host may be alone, or carrying an entourage of phantoms to assist him recover his weaknesses. Even a single phantom makes your job as an invader significantly harder, with that becoming more and more of a problem the more of them that are present. Additionally, those phantoms can be resummoned upon death, making their removal oftentimes temporary at most. And if the host is too far from their hotspot, they can simply wear the way of Blue Covenant, essentially granting them an infinite amount of teammates and no single best approach, since they will all have different playstyles and strategies. As an invader, you have advantages as well. The enemies are normally on your side, save a few exceptions, and the seed of a tree of giants, of course. You gain 1 Estus per phantom killed, and 2 Estus per blue phantom killed, although this is not as fantastic as it sounds. And depending on the situation, you are usually given ample opportunities to set up traps and ambushes. So how can we use the Art of War to improve? The prologue of the book refers to the 4 consigns Xing Shan. I will explain that shortly. Number 1. When the enemy advances, we retreat. When invading, it is seldom advised to match your opponent's aggression. Chances are you are outnumbered and surrounded, or will be before you know it. You will most often want to match your opponent's offensive with defensive exclusively. Never trade if you don't outright win it. They have more resources than you do, and will outlast you if you do that. Number 2. When the enemy stops, we pressure them. Passivity is advised when dealing with an aggressive opponent, but a passive opponent is equally if not more dangerous. If a host isn't attacking or isn't approaching, chances are they have passive regen set up and are waiting for backup. Never interpret their passivity as surrender, especially not if it's sudden. They are preparing their advantages to crush you with them. Do not let this happen. Number 3. When the enemy avoids combat, we attack. This is similar to number 2, in that you should never allow passiveness, though take this slightly different. Any seemingly pacifist host could turn on you in any second. Any phantom that's just there overseeing the fight club is never honest. Eliminate them as soon as you possibly can. These are fake fight clubs and have been around since the beginning of the game. Do not fall for them. Number 4. When the enemy retreats, we make chase. The host will never retreat as a sign of defeat. If they run away, you should have every possible tool at your disposal to catch up, chase down, and keep the pressure on. When a host retreats, they can get passive healing, passive summoning, FP regeneration, and run to a more advantageous position. At all costs, try to avoid letting this happen. As an invader, you have a few advantages, and letting those go will cost you. Sun Tzu stated 5 essential factors of strategy: moral influence, climate, terrain, command, and doctrine. Of these, I believe that climate, terrain, and command can be more closely related to invasions. The other two are important more so to organizing a state rather than video games, and I do not think it necessary to elaborate. Let's start with climate. Climate refers to any natural forces influencing combat. Heat, cold, wind, dryness. In this case, consider the enemies at your side. Can they help you turn the tides and win an invasion? Will they end up creating obstruction? Decide whether you will depend on them or not depending on the situation. Terrain. Terrain is distances, how easy these are to traverse, whether they are wide or narrow, and what possibilities they offer in life and death. This is the single most important factor in invasions. It is crucial that you know the place that you are invading in better than, or at least as well as your opponent does. Where are the choke points? Where can you easily break line of sight? Where can you take cover? Where are you most likely to be able to retreat? Where can you be cornered or corner your opponents? If you can't answer these questions for the areas you are invading in, you need to learn them. There are certain areas in which terrain plays an enormous part in your strategy. Terrain that is narrow, hard to navigate, and leaves little room for movement, like the rafters in Irithyll, are a good example. Gangs tend to be quite wary of following you through those. This is good, as it allows you to play around it. Even if you don't carry the Force Miracle, pulling out a talisman will instantly make them almost completely reluctant to follow you down. If you carry healing miracles, it may be a good idea to remember this, as it is the perfect situation to voice cast them. Just remember to have your back to the edge, lest you get backstabbed. I may make a follow-up video of this, as I consider it quite important. Next up is command. Command is the intelligence, honesty, humanity, courage, and severity of a general. However, for invasions, I will use a single word, adaptability. And no, not the Dark Souls 2 one. How quickly can you adapt? How early can you recognize that you have to swap offense to defense? How quick are you to turn your defense into offense? How well can you keep calm under pressure? All of this is very important in order to win an invasion. Keep this in mind. Always consider these and you will win. When making plans, compare these elements. When strategizing on the fly, consider these elements. When under pressure, think of these elements. This brings us to Sun Tzu's 17th estimation. All war is based on deceit. When you are far, pretend to be close. When you are close, to be far. Offer bait to your enemy. Feign disorder and attack. When your enemy focuses, get prepared. When they are strong, avoid them. Make them angry and confused. Get in their head. Pretend weakness and stimulate their arrogance. Place them in danger and pressure them. When they are united, divide them. Attack them when they are unprepared and watch them when they don't expect you. These are the keys of the strategies to victory, and it is not possible to discuss them beforehand. Let's look at offensive strategy. 100 victories in 100 battles is not the essence of skill. Submission without fighting is the essence of skill. In war, attacking your opponent's strategy is of the utmost importance. If you can shut your opponent down with minimal effort, you have successfully invaded efficiently. Prolonging your fights leads to waste, loss of resources, loss of time, and even stress. It should be your goal to win, and it should be in your best interest to win as quickly and efficiently as possible. Be patient. If your opponent is impatient and sends their squad to attack without concern, they will die without success. True strategy allows one to win any battle of attrition with as minimal effort and waste as possible. When you are 3-1, surround them. When you are 5 times as strong, attack them. If you double them in numbers, divide them. If they are equal, you may attack them. If you are outmatched, know to pull back. If they are stronger, know to avoid them. The weak should always fear the strong. The small should fear the large, and the few should fear the many. That is the words of Shang Yu. Victory is only assured in 5 situations, and they are listed in the book. I will list them here. Number 1. He who knows when to fight and when to abstain will be victorious. Number 2. He who understands how to use his numbers will be victorious. Number 3. He who is one with his army will be victorious. Number 4. He who is wise and attacks only at the right moment will be victorious. And number 5. He who is led by the competent and believes in his fight will be victorious. Which is why you must always know your enemy and know your own self. If you don't know your enemy, but you know yourself, your chances of winning are equal. If you're ignorant to both, you will always face danger. Never face danger if you can avoid it. In short, always know yourself, and always strive to know your opponent. Even if you have the most optimized meta build, you have min-maxed everything and are wielding the top tier weapons, you may still find yourself doing worse than on your other builds. Play to your strengths, never the other way. A whip is better than a curved sword if you know how to use a whip and merely rely on the curved sword. This applies to any weapon. Dispositions. Sun Tzu states that warriors of old would first become invincible and then wait for the moment in which their enemy was vulnerable. Being invincible depends solely on you, and your opponent being vulnerable depends on them. Those who are skilled can attain invincibility, but nobody can control that which depends on the enemy. As such, knowing how to win will not assure victory. Being invincible means relying on defense, the chance of victory, and attacking. You defend when your strength is not adequate, and attack when it is. When invading, it is crucial that you know when to be offensive and when to be defensive. Focusing on a single one will be your downfall. Expending energy. Sun Tzu says that in general, regular strength must be used to fight, and extraordinary strength must be used to win. An expert in combat will calculate the exact moment of attack and will execute it flawlessly and precisely. Its potential is that of a fully primed crossbow, its precision that of pulling the trigger. Strengths and weaknesses. Generally, he who occupies the battlefield first and awaits his opponent will be at ease, and he who arrives on scene and hurries into battle will be tired. Experts in combat always bring their opponents to them and never rush into combat. When your opponent rests, you must tire them. When he is fed, you must make him hungry. When he is still, you must make him move. Be in places where he must rush to get. Move quickly to where you aren't expected. He who can attack unnoticed owns the fate of the enemy. Test every angle. See where their defenses fall short. Attack their weakest point. When you exploit their weaknesses, they must improvise to cover them. Doing this uncovers more weaknesses. Be quick to adapt. Stealth and wits always have a place when invading. Always remember to use them to your advantage. Never give your all when trying to gain an advantage. You will not be able to keep it if that's what it takes. Instead, exhaust them slowly and force them out. Understanding your opponent. We've stated that you want to always keep your opponent guessing. A good way to do this is to avoid having to guess yourself. To achieve this, there are a few attitudes that you can keep an eye out for. For example, if you show weakness, and they spot it and do not take it at all, you can interpret that there is a reason for them to hesitate. More often than not, this means that they are low on resources, or doubt their abilities to exploit it. Take this as a sign to start pestering them. Throw a few firebombs, don't just stand idle, crossbows are good for this. If you start seeing them becoming angrier, this means that they are getting tired of you. They will play more aggressive and make more mistakes. Keep an eye out for dunk pies and point downs. These are your cue to prepare a good counterattack. If your opponent stops moving, analyze them. Why are they stopped? They could be setting a trap, preparing to ambush, or trying to bait you into making a mistake. If when you try different strategies, you realize that they respond heavily to something, keep it in mind. For example, if they hate being dual charmed and stripped of their buffs, or they hate having their Estus denied, focus on that to make them desperate. Sometimes you'll be at low health and will really want to heal. If you're at low health and retreating, you will almost always get the most amount of pressure your opponent can exert. Learn this and the way they do it. After a while, you'll be able to stay at low health for longer and bait them into making more mistakes. General thoughts. As you can see, the art of invading is delicate. and a single mistake can turn the tides. What's important is to learn to avoid making them, and to start creating them in your favor. It's never easy under pressure, but understanding the pressure and how to control it will effectively pay dividends. So go out, invade, put a few of these things in practice. I certainly have, and I have improved from it. Know your enemy, know yourself, divide and conquer, and most of all, have fun. It's why we still play this damn game today. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all some other time.